I hate panels. I go to film festivals all the time. I've always wanted to disrupt the panel culture, right? So this is my attempt to do it.
Hello, welcome to MovieTown. We are at the Slamdance Film Festival, and I'm joined by Ted Hope, prolific producer of over 70 films, been involved in indie film, or even started Amazon's film studio. Now write the newsletter Hope for Film on Substack, and really started Filmstack and NonDē Film. And so you're here, really it's like coming out of that NonDē Film to, you've taken over the Market Monday section of Slamdance. And, so how does that, how for you does that connect to why is Slamdance the right place for that? Like, why a festival? Why not, a separate thing? Like, how does that all work in your mind?
Slamdance is a film festival started by artists for artists. Over 30 plus years now, it has used the filmmaking community as the curators for their programming. It always has adopted an approach of don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness later. Yeah. It has maintained a kind of very scrappy, punk rock, get it done, filmmaker-focused perspective. And I really love that and respect that. We screened my wife's film, Invisible Nation, here 2 years ago at the last Park City one that they did. I've spoken at the festival in the past. My wife's been a jurist. So I feel an affinity with it no matter what. Their Market Monday Day is curated as a group of 19 dangerous ideas to the broken cinema ecosystem. And it's a concept I've had for 3-4 years now. I wrote about it 3 years ago on my newsletter, the usefulness of, quote, dangerous ideas, and how much we suppress such conversations, often because people are afraid of biting the hand that feeds them. Yeah. One of the gifts of living in a broken cinema ecosystem, in a indie film ecosystem that is basically dead and relatively useless, and a studio system that is completely under the boot of the tech bro companies, is that you can start to say, like, this isn't good. I'm mad as hell. I don't want to take it anymore. And I'm looking for a better way. Yeah. And Nandi, short for non-dependent, it is a cinema movement that is positivist and almost practices a form of utopian ideation, where it believes that by working together in a non-competitive manner, by taking responsibility for our work, for the whole holistic approach of cinema making and releasing and preserving, we can actually build something better. Yeah. And that's what all of these 19 dangerous ideas from 19 members of the community from all different backgrounds and expertise is focused on. How to make that work for all participants, not just the 0.5% of the participants who get their film into Sundance, right, and then perhaps catch a golden elevator into a corner suite of success. Like, how do we start to change the metrics of success so they're not just based around status or money,
And what's like the one bright light you've seen or positive thing that you hold on to most of, why to keep pushing for this NonDē, the NonDē style of filmmaking? What's the one thing you that's in the last, bit here, last years, that's really said that you've seen, oh, this is something that can happen?
Well, first I'll be clear, it's not a style of filmmaking.
Right,
Right?
yeah.
So it's not an aesthetic
Right.
approach or a approach to story or formula.
Yeah.
It embraces all of that. But it's basically prioritizing the sustainability of the art, the artist, the audience, and the ecosystem that preserves it. That's the key. I wouldn't ask somebody to do something that I hadn't already tried myself. I take responsibility for my words. I say what I do what I say, and I take full responsibility for its failure as well as, and I know my success is built on the shoulders of others and the team that I am able to assemble. And we've had more success than we could have imagined with the film that my wife directed, Invisible Nation, a documentary, and that we led the distribution on, than I could have ever dreamed of or imagined. Some of that is good fortune, but a lot of that is the right strategy for the material of what it was.
It is a lot of that, like the success of that, is it in theaters, like audience, or is it online? Like where do you see the most?
Every which
Yeah.
way. We played in about 25 markets in the States. We are about to begin our second U.S. college tour, which will go to 25 different universities, and is a fully funded tour by the different communities that support the movie. The film, we've been releasing for about 3 years now, a combination and kind of a dynamic approach to it of both in-person, in real-life screenings and virtual screenings, always generally eventized, whether they're virtual or in real life. And there's a flywheel effect of that. But we've secured distribution on public television that will be coming at the at the beginning of the summer and end of the spring for it here, and we've played theatrically in Taiwan, which is the subject matter of the film, where it became the third highest grossing documentary ever there. The sixth highest grossing film, Taiwanese film of the year, and it's a documentary. But nonfiction filmmakers, have been shut out of the system because the global streaming platforms, practice ultimately anti-competitive behavior and have shut out any film that might in any way offend a part of the audience, which is generally politics. So any film that speaks truth to a power, certainly if it's either China or Russia, but many of the corporate entities too, as well as some smaller regions, is not welcome anymore on these platforms. It wasn't always this way, and I don't even think it will always be this way, but it is this way right now. So we knew we couldn't target that type of release for our film. Nor did we believe that there ever would be despite having over 100 theatrical distributors in the U.S., that the film would appeal to them, because the films aren't generally made for that audience, for that diaspora, even if that audience is well beyond the Taiwanese American community, but also, female leadership, democracy advocates, globally. There's many other different audience pockets. But we, like many other nonfiction filmmakers, believed that there was a targeted audience that wanted more than just to be served a piece of entertainment or education. They actually wanted to participate. And we found ways to help them participate, and they got really behind the film, and it's given us long legs to continue. And you can see this across many different types of nonfiction films, not just films that speak truth to power, certainly those. Certainly films that have gained, for structured for social impact, but also movies like this year, Secret Mall Apartment,
Right.
which did very well at the box office and distributed it themselves. But the bigger picture, and all of this is representative of what will be the most disruptive change, I think, to our cinema ecosystem, bigger than what global streaming platforms have been, are representative. These movies are the little itty-bitty birds, but there's been some golden geese demonstrating this too. Films like Iron Lung, films like Taylor Swift's Eras Tour.
And one thing I want to get at that I think is really interesting, because you've made been a part of so many iconic movies, is and I see it here when I come to Slamdance, the audiences, but especially, we're lucky to be in LA and we have all these revival cinemas, micro cinemas, and that's where I'm seeing these audiences that really just eat and breathe movies, and like they're going out not just for the movie but for the community, and it's fun. And I wonder, because I see a lot of your movies out, Happiness is always playing somewhere.
Now,
it feels like. Do you pay attention to that scene at all, and when some of your films play?
Well, I'm an avid moviegoer.
Yeah.
I went into the film business because I love movies. I generally see at least 250 films a year.
Okay.
And I would say that now that's probably, somewhere around 30% of those films are in theaters, So, generally on the average of 1 or 2 films a week in the theaters. And 100%, pre and post COVID, you started to feel this return of repertory.
Yeah.
Right. And I have a 25-year-old son who, in a lot of ways, like he said this to me when he was half his age, 12 or so, that he didn't like movies, but he loved everyone that he saw.
Yeah.
Right. And what he meant was, like, movies feel like grandpa. Right. And yet when he complains about it, what he actually is complaining about is formulaic storytelling, right? And that bores the F out of them, right? That what I think you start to see with audiences is a yearning for something that doesn't feel controlled. How do you get back to that excitement of they're willing to go there? You see it here in the movies that are programmed at Slamdance.
No, I've come out totally, sparked off of some movie I knew nothing about. And it's like, just the knowing that people are out there, and you see it in these movies that I would see sometimes on, the revival scene has a lot of cult. It has just a lot of like low budget, and I do think there's something about you're getting out of, you don't want to see the same stuff. Want to see people who felt like they were breaking the rules.
Yeah, I had such a great joy this year in that a film that I was just the assistant director on was kind of shunned by people for the longest period of time, and it's now
found an audience.
It now plays at least 4 times a year in LA.
Which one?
This is a film I AD'd by the director Frank Henenlotter called Frankenhooker.
Oh yeah,
right?
It plays a ton.
Yeah, and I think it was helped tremendously by Poor Things.
Okay.
Which a lot, like, there's shot-by-shot comparisons of the two movies. Our movie was made for about $1 million back in the day, and a lot of the actors were experienced in more prurient sides of our industry. But
there's I just talked to somebody about the crossover between adult and San Fernando Valley and Hollywood. Another one of you've worked with Hal Hartley so many times. I love when I see some of his films
and he's
pop up. And I think Trust, I've seen that with crowds. That's my favorite, and it never fails to blow away a crowd seeing it for the first time.
Well, it's interesting, like when I started my career, there was a producer in New York City named Jim Stark, and Jim was a producer financier on a little movie no one believed in called Stranger Than Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, I just saw Richard Edson was in the opening night film here.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he did the music. I'm sorry, he wasn't in it.
Yeah, but he was up on stage.
Yes.
And Jim, had counseled the other Jim, Jarmusch, on the benefits of owning a negative.
Yeah.
And Jim Stark would take it upon himself as like people start to get a little heat in New York City to try to talk them through what this process was. And he did it with me and my business partner, James Shamus, and he did it with me and Hal Hartley and many other people. And two of the filmmakers I worked with really embraced it, Hal and Eddie Burns.
Yeah.
Right?
I spoke with Ed Burns just at the end of the year. We talked a lot about looking back because I could only find it on VHS. And it's like one of these forgotten, like I like a lot of, I think the performances are so good in that film. But, yes, he talked about you and it's, and I think he's kept it going.
Yeah, exactly. Like Eddie and Hal will find a way to make their movie regardless of the budget. Eddie still goes back and makes some corporately financed movies, but in between, he's always making what is essentially a self-financed or crowd-financed or community-financed movie, and Hal does it. Hal's taken it one step further, too, in that he not only owns all of his movies now, he distributes them.
Okay.
And he's much more prefers to do it in the manner he's comfortable with than trying to get it out of that zone and do something else.
Yeah.
So his last film, what was made for a couple $100,000, and he distributed it, and he feels really good about what the whole experience was.
Yeah.
And I wish we had more examples of that. I think there's many real benefits to it.
So you mentioned Frankenhooker just before, we wrap up. Are there any other movies of yours, anywhere along the line that's like you're hoping people like rediscover in the revival repertory scene and get to see in theaters?
It sounds like a bullshit answer, but it's really true in that, anytime someone wants to watch a movie I've been involved with, I'm really grateful. And it's really thrilling. Like right now, I think because they've been on Criterion and one got celebrated at Sundance, I noticed that, The Ice Storm by Ang Lee, Walking and Talking by Nicole Holofcener.
I love Walking and Talking and Lovely and Amazing like so much, those films. They're like so important for, the post-90, like that after the kind of Tarantino boom that these filmmakers were coming along. I love so many of those movies.
Yeah, and so it's really nice when I see that stuff surface. I favor, for lack of a better term, what I would call like movies for grown-ups.
Yeah.
Realistic films for grown-ups about people in real life situations, human endeavor, how it tries to get through whatever this is we're living in. And it really kind of breaks my heart that we don't have more of that here in America. I really love this series that's known as the Oslo Trilogy that came out over the last 2 years. One of the films, it's 3 films, Love, Sex, and Dreams.
Okay,
and Dreams won the Berlin Film Festival last year.
I did see something of these. I don't know them, and I haven't seen them.
They're on Criterion.
Right, I think that's where I saw them.
And they're wonderful.
Okay.
They're talky films about people that you'd think would be your friend that you would know if only you lived in Oslo.
Yeah.
And they run the gamut of sexual identity or gender identity, but that's not what they're about, right? That is no doubt a deliberate strategy, but it's about being alive in the world today and how we navigate that across generational, groups.
I got to check it out.
And they're strong imagistically, I think, but yet totally natural in style. And when I go back and I think, I want to watch more of these movies, it's the same influences like what was influence on those films in the 90s. It's Eric Rohmer.
Right.
It's Hong Sang-soo now. It's where's the American piece of that that is still going, that is made for folks who might be over the age of 35, and that is realistic. Right. I miss those movies.
Well, Ted, thanks so much for chatting with me. This was fantastic.
All right, my pleasure.
Yeah.